Hey guys, welcome back. Chapter 13. Here we're going to be talking about strategic behavior and game theory. I'm probably going to put some videos out there as well on this to help. These are things I probably would have shown in class and talked through anyway. So, good evening, everyone. We're really going to talk about one of probably the most fascinating topics in managerial economics, more fun topics, dealing with strategic behavior and game theory. So this chapter focuses on how firms make decisions when competitors are actively reaching out to them or reacting to them. In many industries, firms can't simply make decisions in isolation. Managers must constantly ask, how will competitors respond? What happens if we lower prices? What happens if we launch a new product? How are our competitors going to respond? What happens if we expand aggressively? And what happens if we increase advertising? So in highly competitive industries, strategic interaction becomes extremely important. And that's exactly what game theory helps to study. So why don't companies simply keep lowering prices until customers flood in? So this is a good discussion point. Um, some answers would be, profits would disappear, competitors would respond, price wars hurt everybody, costs still exist, there would be brand damage, uh, industry instability. So all of those are good answers. But you need to notice something important. Firms have to anticipate competitor reactions. So if one airline lowers ticket prices aggressively, competing airlines often respond quickly. This creates strategic interaction. So managers are constantly making decisions while considering how rivals may react. Um, when we talk about game theory, this is the study of strategic decision making in situations where outcomes depend on the actions of multiple decision makers. So, game theory examines situations where firms interact, decisions are interdependent, and outcomes depend on competitor behavior. Managers in oligopolistic industries constantly operate in game theory environments. So, if we go from most competitive industries to least competitive industries, most competitive would be perfect competition. It's like a farmer's market. Monopolistic competition is next, not monopoly. Monopolistic competition, and this would be like restaurants, hotels, just the whole variety of different competitors. Um, then oligopoly, and that's what we're talking about here, which is three or four major competitors. Uh, this might be your Coke and Pepsi, T-Mobile, Sprint, Verizon, those kind of industries with three or four major players. Dr. Pepper would be in the Coke, Pepsi, Dr. Pepper, and then you might have a fourth category that would be monopoly. So that'd be the least competitors. And so from high competition, perfect competition, to monopolistic competition, to oligopoly, to monopoly. That's sort of how it goes in range of most competitive to least competitive. And so oligopolies a lot of times is a really good uh, situation to look at game theory in, and managers in those oligopolistic industries constantly operate in game theory environments. So actions taken by firms, strategic behavior would be like actions taken by firms while considering possible reactions from competitors. So strategic behavior would occur whenever managers consider how rivals may respond to decisions. Examples would be pricing decisions. If they do their price over here? If they raise it, what do we do on ours? If they lower it, what do we do on ours? Advertising campaigns. If they start spending money on advertising, do we need to up ours? Do we spend less? Um, what's our industry? We need to understand where we're at. Um, if there are mergers happening, how does that affect us? Do we need to look at mergers as well? I mean, if there's a new product coming out for them, do we need to do new products for us? There's expansion plans. Um, if they're expanding, do we? In technological investments, if they're going all in on AI, do we? Um, so, what industries do you think involve the most strategic interaction? Some of those areas would be airlines or smartphones, uh, fast food, streaming services, automobiles, retail technology. A lot of that you see on advertisements. They are constantly advertising for what they do. Um, so industries with only a few major competitors tend to involve the strongest strategic interaction. So, like we said, an oligopoly is a market structure that's dominated by a small number of very large firms. So they're big firms and they take care of most of the market share, but there's only a small number of them. So oligopolies are especially important in game theory because firms are highly interdependent. So examples would include airlines, smartphone companies, soft drink companies, streaming services, and automobile manufacturers. But in an oligopoly, one firm's decisions directly affect the competitors. That's an important principle to understand is when one company chooses to do something, all the other companies are also affected. So if one airline cuts prices really aggressively, competing airlines may match prices or offer promotions or increase advertising. And managers, therefore, have to think strategically. Um, so there's a prisoner's dilemma as well. And this is one of the most famous concepts in game theory. So, a prisoner's dilemma is a situation where individuals acting in their own self interest produce worse outcomes than if they cooperated together. So, for instance, if you've got two prisoners in a jail cell, and one of the prisoners, if neither one of them cooperate with the police, uh, they get 1 year each and they're out. Uh, if they both cooperate, they get 4 years each. Okay, but if or, but if one tells on the other, one goes free and the other gets 10 years. And if this one basically tells on them, they go free and get 10 years. So what are they both going to do? They're in separate rooms. This is the prisoner's dilemma. They're both going to tell on the other person because it's in their best interest. If they don't tell, they could face 10 years and the other person goes free because they blame them. If they do tell, and if they both tell, then they're both going to end up with 4 years each. So now they're both in jail for 4 years. But if they had both kept quiet, they would have gotten 1 year each. But that's the dilemma they find themselves in. And so, because of their fear of what the other person's going to do, they end up both telling and both getting 4 years or something similar. So, this helps illustrate why firms sometimes make decisions that hurt everyone involved. So, think about an airline price war. So, if you have two airlines that are dominating the market, each airline has two choices. They can maintain high prices or they can lower their prices aggressively. If both maintain the high prices, both will earn strong profits. But if one lowers their price while the other keeps pricing high, the aggressive airline gains the market share. However, if both lower prices aggressively, profits collapse for both firms and they both lose. And that creates the dilemma. So, why might firms still lower prices even when price wars hurt everyone? And part of the reason is the fear competitors will act first. So they don't want to be left behind, so they do it too. There's a desire for market share. You have a short-term pressure in making these decisions, and there's competitive survival, and there's executive incentives. So all of these managers have to often act defensively because they fear competitive behavior. So strategic uncertainty drives many business decisions. Um, when we talk about payoff matrices, and I'm going to send you some videos on this, as well as a prisoner's dilemma. There's some good stuff out there I'm going to send to you so you can watch it. So a payoff matrix is a table showing the possible outcomes resulting from strategic decisions made by competitors. And game theorists often use payoff matrices in order to analyze strategic interactions. So a payoff matrix shows possible strategies, competitor responses, and resulting outcomes. For example, suppose that firm A can lower prices or keep prices high, and firm B can lower prices or keep prices high. And so the payoff matrix helps managers analyze the possible outcomes. So this is sort of like the little matrix we had, where if they both tell, this is what happens. If they both don't tell, that's what happens. And if one tells and the other doesn't, that would be sort of the payoff matrix. But there's one strategy that's considered a dominant strategy. And this is a strategy that produces the best outcome regardless of what competitors do. So in some games, one strategy consistently performs better regardless of competitor actions. Managers seek dominant strategies because they reduce uncertainty. So can you think of a firm that attempted to dominate competitors through aggressive pricing? Could be Walmart, Amazon, Costco, Uber. These are all good examples. Some firms intentionally use aggressive price strategy to pressure competitors. There's also a term called collusion. You see this in cartels like OPEC. But this is an agreement among firms to coordinate prices or production in order to increase profits. Sometimes firms attempt to avoid destructive competition by cooperating. Like, hey, we're both going to not say the right answer. We're both right now going to tell the police when we know nothing because it's in both of our best interests. Okay, so it's sort of that prisoner's dilemma. And so firms sometimes attempt to avoid destructive competition by that cooperation. So a cartel is a formal group of firms coordinating output or prices. Like we mentioned, OPEC, they coordinate oil production among member countries. But somebody always cheats and somebody always does more than they're supposed to. And so, you have an incentive to cheat in a cartel. There's a game I'm going to send out to you called The Evolution of Trust. I want you to play that game. That's a fun little game. We would have done that in class, and you can really see this game theory at work. So collusion is illegal in many countries because it reduces competition and it harms consumers. So why do governments usually oppose it? Typically, the reason they don't like it is because it creates higher prices. It reduces competition. More competition is good for us as consumers. When we don't have it, it harms us. There's less innovation, and it produces unfair markets. So competitive markets generally benefit consumers through lower prices, greater innovation, and better quality. When we talk about price leadership, this is also another strategy. This is a situation in which one dominant firm sets prices that other firms will end up following. So in some industries, one major firm effectively leads pricing decisions, and competitors often follow the leader in order to avoid instability. So An example might be a large airline or a major oil company, uh, and how they often influence industry pricing behavior. There's also non-price competition. So this would be competition that's based on factors other than price. Because price wars can be destructive, firms often compete through advertising or branding, customer service, innovation, loyalty programs, and product quality. That's all. Those are all forms of non-price competition. So an example would be like Apple, which rarely competes primarily on price. Apple would rather compete through design and ecosystem integration, innovation, and brand loyalty. So, why might firms prefer non competition over price competition? First one is it protects profits, it preserves the brand image, it avoids price wars, and it builds loyalty. It creates diffusion as well. So, non price competition often creates more sustainable competitive advantages. So, that's another reason why you do it. So, all these are different game theories. I'm going to have a lot of resources that I send you. These are resources we would have seen in class as well. So, tonight we examine game theory, strategic behavior, oligopoly, the prisoner's dilemma, dominant strategies, collusion, price leadership, non price competition. And one of the biggest lessons from this chapter is that managers rarely make decisions in isolation, and competitors' reactions matter. Strategic thinking is really, because of that, it's essential in modern business. And the firms that best anticipate competitor behavior often gain more advantages in competitive markets. So hopefully this helps. I definitely miss that in-class, in-person dynamic that we have where we can really go through and discuss things and make it more fun. But I'm going to send you a lot of good resources. They're worth looking at, worth reviewing. And if you guys have any questions at all, always feel free to reach out. And I'll look forward to seeing you guys Monday. Take care.